Man, I nearly missed this series as much as my score predictions, but we are back for the first time in over 100 days with my championship review, and we're doing this on Matchday 38, the return of championship football. And what was really telling to me is that majority of the clubs need to learn how to kick a ball again for me, but we had some really shock results. We saw the league table changing more times than a baby's nappy. We've seen players not playing due to contracting COVID-19. We've got a lot to talk about in this video. Before we move on, we're going to talk about shoutouts now. Congratulations to 2 viewers of my channel who managed to get a correct score prediction for the championship. Luke Armstrong and ADT, you both got a correct prediction. Your comments are on the screen right now. And ADT, you got 2 correct predictions over Luke Armstrong's one. So your channel will be shouted out. Your channel is on the eye icon up there. Everyone subscribe to ADT, and both of you have been entered into the Leicester's Hall of Fame. And there's been a little bit of changing in the Leicester's Hall of Fame, so it's still highly competitive. As with my predictions, I managed to get 1 correct prediction, which was the Luton and Preston game, which ended 1-1. And as with FIFA got 1 correct score, which surprised me, and that was the Cardiff and Leeds game. And the last thing I'll do, I'll feature your comment now if you got a Premier League score prediction correctly. I struggled a little bit on FIFA. Later on, you're going to see me predict the next batch of Premier League games. But if you guys like what you see, you want to see more of this series, please make sure you do give this video a like. It'll be tremendously appreciated. I would like to thank everyone that liked Friday's video. It's actually exceeded 10 likes for the first time since, well, for video announcing that I was going to leave YouTube for a bit, which probably makes sense. But thanks for exceeding 10 likes, guys. It really does make my day. Also, if you're new to the channel, welcome to this channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel. I've gained 2 subscribers since Friday's video, which is already more than I gained for practically the last 3 months, so I am very appreciative of all of you guys with that support. Let's keep pushing to 150 subscribers. We are 10 subscribers away, but without any further ado, let's go through what happened this weekend in return of championship football. So the game that kicked off the return of the championship was Fulham versus Brentford, a West London derby, and it ended with Brentford being the happier side of the West London derby, winning the game by 2-0. In the first half, I think Fulham were the better side. The first notable chance in the game came from Bobby Reed, where he unfortunately struck the post where he was in a fantastic position. However, the build-up play leading up to that from Kabanu, Tom Kearney and Harrison Reed with that reverse pass, just props to them. That was some terrific play, and Fulham any other day probably would have scored that. Brentford only started growing into the game to the final 15 minutes of the game and after the final water break. But before that, Fulham was still having chances. Mitrovic had a goal disallowed for offside, and Mitrovic also had a diving header which was very well saved by David Raya. The water breaks and the 5 substitutions, I think, are going to add some new tactical decisions in games, and it's really intriguing actually to see how managers approach the water breaks and the 5 substitutions. And what it told me is that Thomas Frank used his substitutions perfectly. He introduced Marcondes on at the right time, replacing Tariq Fosu. Within 20 minutes, Marcondes scored and assisted a goal. His involvement was so important, and he deputised Brian Mbeumo very well since he was not able to travel with his squad since he contracted COVID-19. My thoughts and prayers go out to him if it's serious. Emiliano Marcondes assisted the first goal. It was a terrific pass by Norgard to find Marcondes in so much space. He then put in a very dangerous pass which was missed by Ollie Watkins, but then Said Benrahma got just about enough to poke the ball into the net, and that made it 1-0 to Brentford. And within minutes, Brentford delivered the sucker punch and scored a second, which started from a Fulham corner, and after Brentford headed it away, classic counter-attack, which was led by Castillo and Benrahma. Marcondes received it, and despite holding the ball for a little bit, I thought he held it a bit too long, but actually he still had enough time and space to shoot a perfect shot past Marek Rodak in Fulham's goal, and that ended 2-0 to Brentford. Fulham, I wouldn't say were poor, but I think they were deeply affected by not having their fans. And I think the difference was that they just did not take the chances like Brentford did. It's very interesting now to see the sides separated by only 1 point now. You think that Fulham were going to be the one side chasing the top 2, but maybe Brentford could potentially be the most threatening team to go for that promotion. You know, with the top 2 sides dropping points this weekend, maybe Brentford's hopes of automatic promotion are not quite gone yet. Then we saw Swansea destroy Middlesbrough by beating them by 3-0. Swansea especially destroyed Middlesbrough in the first 45 minutes. I would say Middlesbrough weren't too poor. They kept the ball for quite a bit, but they just weren't creating anything. And I did say in my predictions that I edged to Swansea because their attacking players give me more confidence that they're going to take some chances. First goal was started with Andre Ayew driving forward and Ryan Brewster managing to receive a pass, and he did just about enough to poke it through the net past Stojanovic in goal. And 3 minutes later, Ryan Brewster scored a second. He scored twice in 3 minutes. He was a man on fire. Aldo Kalulu performed a great cross and Brewster managed to scuff the volley a little bit, but they had just enough power to beat Stojanovic, and that made it 2-0 to Swansea. And by that time, Middlesbrough had a mountain to climb to try and get back into the game. Andre Ayew finished off the scoring with a penalty conceded by George Friend on Conor Gallagher. Terrible defending overall, and Andre Ayew sent Stojanovic the wrong way, and that made it 3-0 to Swansea. Honestly, it really could have been a cricket score with Swansea flying through the traps in the first half. They hit the woodwork 3 times in the game, with hitting the woodwork twice in the first 15 minutes. It's a fantastic win for Swansea. They are only 1 point off the top 6. It is getting so close with the chasing pack going for this top 6 place. They are most definitely a serious contender with the squad they have. As with Middlesbrough, they are only above the relegation zone on goal difference. The next 2 games they playing against relegation threatened teams, Stoke and Hull. They need to not lose, preferably either one, but if they lose both of these games, I think they would need to start worrying about relegation, in my opinion. And next up, we had a terrific game going on at the Den, where it was the away side once again, this time being Derby County, with a 3-2 away victory. I think I need to start backing more away teams now, because it seems the statistics Bundesliga brought out with home wins having a decreased percentage and away wins gaining an increased percentage. That trend seems to be the same with the Championship. Derby were the winners, and it was a perfect game by the 18-year-old Louis Sibley, scoring a hat-trick. Millwall started well though, and they went ahead with Matt Smith. Ferguson managed to get the cross, and when you give Matt Smith a free header, he's always going to score, and that's exactly what he did. Millwall were 1-0 up, but it was disappointing how Millwall couldn't really control the game from this lead. Derby, I have to say, when watching the highlights of the game, they looked really good and really confident. I do think the change of atmosphere really got to the Millwall players, which I think is why Derby really rose to the occasion, thinking that they can take Millwall on. For Louis Sibley's first goal, he does incredibly well. He manages to keep the ball, and despite with some pressure and losing his balance a little bit, he manages to scoop the ball right in the top right corner. It was tremendous. Louis Sibley's second was also a terrific goal. Terrific build-up play from Derby overall, and Waghorn with a fantastic pass to Sibley, practically saw himself one-on-one, shot the ball past Białkowski, and that got Derby winning by 2-1. But Sibley managed to achieve his hat-trick. Not the prettiest of goals, in fact quite a scrappy goal, which I think was a shot that took Białkowski off guard a little bit. I think if he knew about it, he would have saved it. So Derby were 3-1 up with Louis Sibley scoring a hat-trick. Unbelievable. He's going to have a tremendous future, I can guarantee it. Millwall missed the chance to go into playoffs, and in fact with John Daddy Budvarsson's stoppage time goal for Millwall ending the game 2-3, they've denied Derby to overtake Millwall. That is how close all the teams in that part of the table are. Derby were 1 goal away to overtaking Millwall entirely of the table, where we judged Millwall being the favourites going to the playoffs. Unbelievable, the Championship is so gripping. But the game, Millwall 2, Derby 3, a terrific game. Now we have an intriguing result happening at the Hawthorns, where West Brom and Birmingham draw out a stalemate, a 0-0 draw, which I don't think many people expected. I must stress, in my score predictions, I made it sound like Pep Clotet left Birmingham, but I've got to correct myself. He's leaving at the end of the season, so he's going to be in charge of the final 9 games of Birmingham. So hands up, sorry about that, but he should be proud of his team that they managed to contain a really intense West Brom side. But I think West Brom were one of the notable teams I saw that were really lacking the quality and looked really rusty in terms of trying to return to football. They didn't really test Lee Camp at all, and the same with Birmingham. They were just happy to soak up the pressure and occasionally charge forward when they had the chance. I think it's a missed opportunity for West Brom, especially as Leeds lost their game against Cardiff. They could have pulled themselves a little bit of a gap for them, but they are now first place in the table by goal difference. They need to get back to their best as soon as they can, so they can try and pull themselves away from the chasing pack for promotion. As with Birmingham, they don't really have a lot to play for. but I feel like they just need to achieve as many points as they can and try and achieve a great end to the season. Then we saw Blackburn being one of the few teams not affected by having no fans at their stadium. A home win, beating playoff chasing rivals Bristol City by 3-1, and sadly Joshua Jones, Bristol City lost, so I won't be downing a cider on camera again. The opening 30 minutes was very cagey, but in the 34th minute we got the breakthrough and Jamie Patterson managed to score. It was a beautiful cross by Tommy Rowe and a gorgeous header from Jamie Patterson, getting past the reach of Christian Walton, and Bristol City were 1-0 up. But what was a bit disappointing from Bristol City is how they did not contain Blackburn. Blackburn, however, coped very well from going behind. They equalised 3 minutes later. Their equaliser was questionable goalkeeping from Daniel Bentley, and I question whether my road to glory has kind of cursed him. But I do have to give Stuart Downing credit. It was a very dangerous pass, and Corey Evans manages to beat Bentley to it, but I don't know what you think. Bristol City fans, what did you think of Daniel Bentley in that goal? For me, he could have done more. Following from 1-1, it was half time. In the second half, Thomas Callas nearly had a disaster class, doing an awful back pass which got to no one, which Ben Brereton managed to nick off from him. He was practically one-on-one with Daniel Bentley, but he fluffed his opportunity and missed giving Blackburn a lead. But he didn't have too many regrets, so Blackburn did take the lead from Tosin Adebayo. He scored a cracking second, but Bristol City's defence really was all over the place. He had so much space and time to shoot the shot, but it was a perfect shot from Tosin Adebayo, and that got Blackburn to be 2-1 up. Blackburn finished off the scoring with a classic counter-attack, with Adam Armstrong eventually scoring that to make it 3-1 to Blackburn Rovers. Bristol City have fallen to 10th place, but are still only 2 points behind in the playoffs. Blackburn, who were previously below Bristol City, have now overtaken Bristol City and are within 1 point of the playoffs. 4 from Bristol City, but jubilation for Blackburn Rovers. And then we saw Wigan pick up another away win, beating Huddersfield Town by 0-2. Wigan, for me, with their attitude, took the game by the scruff of the neck, and that is what they need to do as they're scraping for survival. Kiefer Moore does really well down on the right hand side, but the cross is really poor. However, the deflection is at a perfect height for Jamal Lowe, who simply has to tap it in past Jonas Lossell, and that made it 1-0 to Wigan. Huddersfield had a couple of chances, but they weren't all that creative. Emil Smith-Rowe had a good opportunity, and his shot was very well saved by Dave Marshall in Wigan's goal. But I have to say, my man of the match in that game was Jamal Lowe. He was an absolute fire and looked like that he had no break from football at all. And it was Anthony Pilkington who finished Wigan's scoring. Jamal Lowe supplies it and he assists Pilkington's goal. He receives the ball and he tries to do a little bit of a turnover, but he doesn't quite do it right, but he still gets a shot off which was partially deflected, and it takes Jonas Lossell by surprise and it creeps through the net, a little bit similar to Bielkowski being unexpected with Sibley's third goal. Huddersfield were really poor because, as I said, they did not create much and they need to, as they're still in the mix for relegation. As with Wigan, I would be very surprised if Wigan are relegated based on the way they're playing at the moment, but they still need to try and get as many results as they can. And now we have the one game that I predicted correctly. It was Luton 1, Preston 1, and I think the result was slightly deserved. Although I think Preston were slightly stronger than Luton. Luton, I think, did improve a little bit. They did have a bit of fight with Nathan Jones working as their first game as a manager since he left for Stoke. Preston, I think, was slightly the better side in the opening since they did create chances. Sean Maguire had 2 chances where he could have done a little bit better, but Simon Sluga dealt with him very, very well. Eventually, with a very cagey game, Preston managed to get the opening, but it's an awful touch by Martin Craney. Then it's won by Tom Barkhuizen. He drives it forward. A great pass to Scott Sinclair, who simply has Sluga to beat, and he beats him. That got Preston 1-0 up. But Luton, almost against the run of play, they've not really been in the game that much. They managed to find the goal. It was a fantastic pass by James Bree, and to Callum McManaman, who was a substitute brought on by Nathan Jones, scores an absolute beauty. He scores an unbelievable strike, and that makes it 1-1. For me, Preston could have won if they took their chances. As with Luton, they took their chances, and because of that, they got the draw, so I think it's well justified. However, despite drawing, Luton have now fallen to the foot of the championship table, 5 points from safety. It's not impossible for them to escape it, but with the running and with the teams potentially fighting for their lives for relegation and getting some shock results, it's going to be quite difficult for Luton, so I do fear for Luton a little bit. As with Preston, despite dropping points, they are still in 6th place. I have no idea how they're still there. Preston have got some very key games coming up. They've got home games against Cardiff and Derby. They need to avoid a defeat in any of those games to keep their place in the playoff, in my opinion. And now we have another away team taking all 3 points, and this time it's Barnsley. And this win finds them moving out of the foot of the table in 23rd, 4 points from safety. And the difference was an early goal scored by Elliot Simoes. But you've got to thank Ben Williams. He performs an outstanding pass, which basically goes past about 3 or 4 players to find Simoes, practically one-on-one with Kelly. He scores a top class pass, honestly, probably the assist of the weekend if there was such a thing. This game I think would have been a cracker, but I think this was one of the few games where both teams were really struggling to get back to their quality. Both teams were poor, especially Queen's Park Rangers going forward. Their attack was really poor. I think it'll be a bit difficult for Queen's Park Rangers getting into the playoffs, especially losing this game. But as I said, a bit similar to Birmingham's targets. Let's see how high they can get up the table. As with Barnsley, they've got to fight for their lives. 4 points of safety. I don't think it's impossible for them. And of course, the one time I don't predict Barnsley to win, they win. That's just my luck, isn't it? And now to a game I predicted a 0-0 draw. Reading and Stoke actually ended as a 1-1 draw, and actually was more entertaining and filled with more quality than I imagined it would. Reading, I have to say, for about 3/4 of the game, were the better side. They looked absolutely hungry to try and beat Stoke. And from that hunger, they took an early lead through Lucas João. A dangerous pass from Yaku Meite going to the box. Lucas João simply had to tap it past the post, and that made it 1-0 to Reading. Reading could have scored more. John Swift had 2 really good opportunities. One opportunity was when he shot from distance, but Jack Butler made a good save. And in the second half, John Swift also had a free kick in a very good position, which came off the crossbar. Tyrese Campbell for Stoke also hit the woodwork in the final 50 minutes ago, and I think it was after the final water break when Stoke started to grow into the game. Stoke grew into the game so well that I actually managed to find time and equaliser in the 92nd minute. Sorensen delivers a fantastic corner where it was pinballed all around in the box, and eventually finding Nick Powell, where he scored from a diving header, and that's how the game ended 1-1. Reading are one of the few teams that they don't have a lot to play for. As with Stoke, they've got to try and get as many points as they can because they're still in the mix for relegation, only 2 points above the relegation zone. Apologies guys for the lighting, I can only just apologise on that. But now we go to Sheffield Wednesday and Nottingham Forest, which ends as a 1-1 draw. Sheffield Wednesday, I have to say, for a good 2/3 of that game were the team on top. In the first half, chances were plenty, but no clear-cut chances for me to commentate on. It was only in the second half where we got a clear chance, and it's from Sheffield Wednesday got the first clear chance from Connor Wickham, who managed to win a header, but he was unlucky not to score. His header got the ball to crash into the post, but it got to Lees, where he only just needed to smash in the rebound. But Joe Worrell makes a heroic defensive clearance, unbelievable defending, and Tom Lees is very unlucky there. Nottingham Forest a little bit against the run of play, actually took the lead in this game, but they've got to thank Matty Cash. The pass he did to Joe Lolly was exceptional, right up there with Ben Williams' assist. Both of those assists were absolutely incredible, especially as they were stepping back into football over 100 days in lockdown. Joe Lolly found himself in a terrific position. He managed to shoot the ball past Wildsmith, and that made it 1-0 to the away side, Nottingham Forest. Sabri Nomishi, who of course signed a new contract, was really left frustrated when Sheffield Wednesday, likewise with Stoke, managed to find time for a stoppage time equaliser. And it was the guy that came close, Connor Wickham, who managed to score that equaliser. Alessio De Cruz managed to deliver a corner. It was really poor defending by Figueiredo, but Connor Wickham managed to win a free header, and the 2 January transfers combining for that goal. I have to say, for the passage of the play, Sheffield Wednesday actually do deserve at least a point in this game. It's one of their most encouraging performances I've seen since they were managed by Gary Monk. Sheffield Wednesday are another side with not much to play for, but with a points deduction potentially looming, they've got to win as many points as they can just in case they do get punished by the EFL. As in Nottingham Forest, they missed an opportunity. They could have really closed the gap on Fulham. They're only 3 points behind Fulham though, and if they can get a good run together, they could be another side chasing promotion, man. This season's so exciting, let me tell you. We have our final Saturday games. Charlton managed to win the relegation 6-pointer with a 1-0 away victory. How many away wins is that? We've got so many away wins in this match day. Another thing I would say, I was so pleased to see Angus MacDonald back in the starting 11 over 600 days. I think it was 685 days, I think that was the stat, where he's not played a football match. Unbelievable, and I have to say, I think he was one of Hull's best defenders. But I'm terrific to see Angus MacDonald back in the pitch, recovering from bowel cancer. Charlton scored from an early corner. It was delivered and George Long just kind of parries it forward, and he parries it straight at Jason Pearce, who practically has a free header on goal, and that made it 1-0 to Charlton. Hull have really struggled defending set pieces all season, and that was a classic example when George Long making a very rare mistake. That goal was a sucker punch, because I would say Hull were on top. Herbie Kane looked a little bit dangerous, and Manic Wilkes as well looked like they could have a good game on their hands, but that goal from Jason Pearce really knocked the wind out of Hull City's sails. And overall, there was just a lacking confidence from Hull City, and both teams were lacking quality expected in a relegation 6-pointer, but Charlton held on and managed to get the 1-0 away win, and they've managed to swap places from each other. Hull have found themselves in the bottom 3 for the first time this season. Hull now need to build up their confidence again, because if they don't, I could see them getting the favourites for relegation within 2 or 3 games. They need to build up their confidence with a full squad returning. Charlton are not safe yet either, but with a positive result, it puts them in a more favourable position than Hull does. Finally, to yesterday's game, where we saw Cardiff denying Leeds the chance to go to the top place of the championship by beating them by 2-0, and FIFA managed to get this one right, although they did not get the goal scorers right. Cardiff were going to pack the box where Leeds were going to have so many chances. Cardiff were patient, and eventually they capitalised and got 2 goals from 2 Leeds United mistakes. The first one came from Calvin Phillips, where he did a blind pass, but it was awful. Junior Hoylett managed to win it back. He runs practically almost the exact half of the pitch, shoots an unbelievable strike. Meslier gets a hand to it. I think he could have done a bit better, but Junior Hoylett scores a terrific goal that made it 1-0 to Cardiff. And I think the game just summed up by Patrick Bamford blocking Harrison's shot just before half time. If Harrison's shot came in and Bamford was in the way, that would have been 1-1 going into half time. I do feel sorry for Bamford. He was just in the wrong place in the wrong time. Leeds continue to look threatening, but I think that back line of Sean Morrison, Joe Bennett, Curtis Nelson and Dion Sanderson, they just could not be broken apart. They were so compact and resolute. And eventually another Leeds United mistake of trying to play out from the back managed to get Cardiff second, but Robert Glatzel takes an awkward ball but makes a brilliant touch and scores on the volley, and it hits the underside of the post and in. Meslier with no chance with that one, and that made it 2-0. Cardiff only had 2 shots on goal and they scored 2 goals, just like FIFA 20 predicted. Leeds have 8 games to secure their promotion, and of course last year it was their form, starting with their final 9 games with their loss at home against Sheffield United, where Leeds United fell apart. They only won 3 times out of their last 9 games last year. For me, they need to win at least 4 to 5 games to put themselves in a healthy position for promotion. If they don't, and they still lose games, before it gets to matchday 41, no time, they'll be the team in the playoffs. And Leeds United do not want to be in that position again. As a Cardiff City, they're only 1 goal away from getting into the playoffs. The table is that close between the playoffs and the chasing pack. Nervous times for Preston as they're staying in the playoffs by 1 goal, but exciting times for Cardiff, who I think can potentially get up there. So that wraps up my championship review for the return of championship football. My goal of the weekend, there were so many contenders to pick actually. I could pick Junior Hoylett's one, I could pick Louis Sibley's first goal, but for me, I'm just going to edge it to Callum McManaman's unbelievable strike from Luton Town. It was a bit of quality that came out of nowhere. Callum McManaman gets my goal of the weekend. Player of the weekend, I think, is a no-brainer for me. Louis Sibley, hat-trick, 18 years of age. He's my player of the weekend. As with the result of the weekend, there were quite a few tough ones to pick. I'm actually going to give it to the Millwall Derby game. It's a thriller, a 5-goal game where you don't see many of those. It was overall the most entertaining, so I'll say the result of the weekend was Millwall 2, Derby 3. But that wraps it up from the championship review. This is what the table currently looks like after matchday 38, and look how much it changes after 1 match day. That is what I'm so excited about with the championship. The final 8 games is going to be epic. Before we end the video, let's predict the upcoming Premier League games in midweek and the 2 League 2 playoff semi-final results. We start with Leicester versus Brighton. I think it'll be tight, but I think Leicester will get a 2-1 victory. Spurs and West Ham. I think West Ham could have a point. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Spurs don't have a good record. Norwich and Everton. I think Everton, after putting a great performance against Liverpool, I think they can beat Norwich. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think Norwich are a bit dead and buried already. Wolves and Bournemouth. If Bournemouth were as poor as they were against Palace, I think Wolves will brush them aside. I think I'll say 3-0 for Wolves. Man United and Sheffield United. If Sheffield United were as poor as they were against Newcastle, I think Man United will beat them. I think it'll be 3-1. I think Man United may have some fun in this game. Newcastle and Aston Villa. Now, this is tight. This is really tight. Aston Villa, you could argue, a bit unlucky not to get anything from Chelsea, although they did not play that well. I'm going to say Aston Villa get a 1-0 away victory. I think they need a chance of an opponent where they can get something from. I think it'll be either 0-0 or 1-0 to Villa. Liverpool Crystal Palace. I mean, Liverpool looked really flat against Everton. Didn't really create anything cohesive. I think Liverpool may edge it though. I think it'll be a 1-0 victory for Liverpool. Burnley and Watford's tie. I'm going to say a 2-1 victory to Burnley. Southampton and Arsenal. Ooh, now, Arsenal just look like a team that are just not going to win at the moment. They've got so many injuries, including their goalkeeper, their defence. It's a disaster for Arsenal at the moment. And Southampton had a terrific performance against Norwich. I'm going to say a 2-1 victory to Southampton. I think they can definitely beat Arsenal during these conditions. Chelsea, Man City. Oh, do I go with my head or my heart? Chelsea did well against Villa. I think most of that game we showed that we still have quality. Man City just brushed Arsenal aside, didn't really try. I'm going to say Man City get a 2-1 away victory though. I think they're going to do the double over Chelsea this season. And finally, the League 2 playoff semi-finals. Exeter versus Colchester. Colchester got the advantage, but I think it's going to end 3-2 to Exeter on aggregate. So I think they'll get a 3-1 victory in the second leg. Finally, Cheltenham and Northampton. Cheltenham in a fantastic position, getting a 2-0 away victory against Northampton. I think they're going to brush them aside. I think it'll be 4-1 on aggregate. So I think they will win by 2-1 in their home game. But that'll wrap it up for today's video. If you guys like what you see and want to see more championship content, please make sure you do give this video a like. It'll be tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. It'll be tremendously appreciated. And please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really make my day. But that wraps it up. I'm glad football's back. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary who saw the end of this video. And as always, take care.